participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but the public can access this meeting while in progress by Zoom Video Communications, Inc. Members of the public attending this meeting virtually will be allowed to make comments if they wish to do so during the portion of the hearing designated for public comment by telephone, cell phone, or personal computer using Zoom. As a reminder, some guidelines for participants. Please utilize the chat or raise hand function if you wish to be addressed by the board. Participants will remain on mute until they have been addressed by the board, and participants are required to display their first and last names. All that said, by tradition, we will start with a roll call of present members. I am Brian Barabee.
Jim Garrity.
Laura Stevenson.
Sue Mitra.
Sam Bosley.
It's everyone.
Julia Yang.
I'm sorry?
Julia Yang.
Okay. Excuse me. So first up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent for 98 Norse Road, DEP file number 112-0757. For an update on this, I will say there was a site, I know it was open last hearing. We conducted a site visit in the interim to go and look at the site. Trying to think if I had questions coming off of that. I didn't, from what I could see, most of the proposed work is done over pre-existing lawn. And it's plantings, nothing that's really going to mess up the flow of water or change how it is being the infiltration of it. Parts that weren't being done over pre-existing lawn was removing certain plantings and replanting it with native species that are supposed to be in the area, so it could be perceived as a benefit, except for the temporary disturbance of tearing up that particular area of lawn. The only question the one clarification, I think Rebecca noted it too, is just that I know there were a number of trees to be removed. They were marked on the plans, and just wanted to confirm that there is no plan to remove the stumps, that these were going to be flush cut or cut and flush cut, but no plans to remove the stumps, no stump grinding planned with this?
Yes, correct. We're
Okay.
going to just flush cut them.
Okay. And I was going to say, Nancy, can I ask you, do you remember the total number of trees? I know there's one that's already down and hanging that you'd kind of be able to remove, but the number of actual trees that are standing still?
6.
6. Okay. I know in the past, oftentimes we'll ask people to leave some of those trees they're removing as a snag, basically cutting it at about 6 feet, 7 feet, and leaving it as habitat for certain birds, certain animals in the area. For me, on this particular one, with it being 6 trees, I would say maybe if it's one of the 6 being left as a snag and leaving which one of the 6 up to the actual applicant themselves as to which tree they would leave that way. I think I would be comfortable with that for a small degree of mitigation. Again, there's going to be disturbance into some areas where we don't like, but it's to replace some of the plants that are growing there now with more native species, and allowing it to renaturalize. The parts being done on the existing lawn, I wasn't really concerned with it messing up the flow of anything or really changing the hydration of the area. Those were my takeaways from the site visit, but I would put it out to other commission members. Additional questions, comments, thoughts?
Just a quick question on erosion controls. Nancy, were the erosion controls on the plans? I can't recall.
It is on the plan, yeah.
Okay.
And I was planning to use a silt sock. Is that good with you, or do you require anything different?
Go ahead.
Generally speaking, we're fine with that, depending on what the topography looks like, how steep of a drop off it is, and the extent you're looking to do. For me personally, I think the erosion, I think the sock would work. Okay. Straw wattle, we avoid using hay, but like a straw wattle something along those lines. I don't
Yeah.
think it needs to be staked bales for this
Okay.
particular project, but
Mhm.
I'm curious if other commission members have different thoughts, strong feelings. Okay. Any other comments, questions from commission members? Seeing none. Are there any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Okay. All right. In that case, just again, I'd like to make a motion that we close the hearing for 98 Norse Road DEP file number 112-0757. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren. I'm an aye as well. All right. I'd like to make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 98 Norse Road as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting with the following additional conditions. That one of the trees marked for removal be left in place as a snag. Which tree that is can be at the discretion of the applicant. And that the new plantings, in order to get a certificate of compliance, that any new plantings or plantings go in need to have a 75% survival rate over the course of 2 growing seasons. Do I hear a second for issuing an order of conditions with those 2 additional conditions attached?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. You guys have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Yes, we appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. We got half a minute. Okay. The commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss the notice of intent for 89 Spectacle Hill Road, DEP file number 112-0754. Do we have an update on this? I'm looking at my notes, Lauren. It looks like the applicant may have asked for a continuance, or are they here tonight with us?
Yep, I actually just, I received an email earlier this evening. They are requesting a continuation to the next meeting on the 20th.
Okay. Seeing no reason not to continue. Any commission members have any opposition? All right. Any members of the public that were here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Seeing none. I'm going to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 89 Spectacle Hill Road until our next public meeting, Tuesday, May 20th, 2025 at 7:10 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
excuse me, and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
All right, we do have some time before our next meeting. Through. Sorry, trying to think seeing what we can take out of order.
We have the certificate of compliance for 38 Long Hill Road.
We can do that.
Let's do that. I thought they wanted.
Sorry.
Yep. That one will need to be continued as well. We don't have an update.
Okay. One. Nation discussion. Sorry. I was gonna say 38 Long Hill. It looks like we were waiting until next meeting, possibly. Oh no, wait. So is it? Sorry. So say, Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked like we were waiting for one more thing for 38 Long Hill certificate of compliance.
Yes,
Gotcha.
I think we're expecting to receive it by next meeting.
Okay.
Any updates from them? So I don't know if you need to do a motion to continue or we can just table this one.
I believe we can just table it. Yeah.
Okay.
Through. Oh, you know what we can discuss? I was thinking, I know we want to do some of the ones for trails. We're waiting till it's the end of the meeting because I know somebody wants a chance to show up and actually talk. We can do. Oh yeah, we still got 5 minutes. You'll notice on your agendas there is a vote to transfer funds from the conservation fund line item to the conservation fund. For any new members, we do have a conservation fund line item. It's the amount of money that goes into our budget every year that goes into a conservation fund, which we can use for we can use for land purchase, but also we can use for title searches and some of the prep work we would need to do before bringing a large parcel, usually before the town, to see if we want to purchase it. It also, if it's a small parcel or help in getting an APR or conservation restriction, it's money that we can use towards that as well. I should double check that, but I know we can use it for land purchase. We can also use it for title search on lands that we might be interested in purchase and things along those lines. It lives on that line item until we vote to basically not spend the money, but use the money to transfer it from being in our budget to the actual conservation fund. I am sorry, that was a really, really long explanation for a relatively, I hope, simple thing. I hope that makes sense. We still have 5 minutes to kill before the next hearing. So if you would like any clarification on that, or if there's any confusion there, feel free. I will try to explain it better. But if everybody has a general understanding, I'm going to call for a roll call vote to transfer the full amount of funds from the conservation fund line item to the actual conservation fund. All those in favor of transferring this money, please say aye. Starting with Jim,
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren. I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
No problem. As I say, I can point out our volunteer land steward position is still available, and we still do have one spot left on the Conservation Commission. If anyone is interested, information can be found on the town's website or by calling the Conservation Office. Like to mention these at the end, but no reason we can't do it again. Then the Learn to Fish Clinic, co-hosted by Mass Wildlife, is going to be July 3rd this year at the Bower Springs Conservation Area. Sorry, I'm just reading through my notes.
Do you think we have time for the international? The removal of
That's a
erosion?
really good one. I think we do.
Alright.
Okay. Sorry. As Lauren just mentioned, you will probably see on your agenda for this evening a request. Of course, now I can't find it. Sorry.
It's below the 401 Main Street request for certificate of compliance. Let's see.
It's funny. I had it. I'm sorry. My notes got shuffled on me, which I
Okay.
probably did to myself, but that's beside the point.
On the 5th page of the agenda.
There it is. Dun, dun, dun. All right. Okay. Sorry, I just found it. I'm just trying to read through what I had written down. And apologies to everyone. I know I saw many of you at annual town meeting last night. It was a very long day yesterday, to say the least. Not getting home till like 11:30 last night did not help. So I apologize if I am stuttering and stammering a lot more than usual today. It's a full day of work as well. And I could use a nap. That said, I think we have a chance. We have a few minutes to discuss the request for approval to remove the remaining erosion controls at the Pines Golf Course at the International. It was DEP file number 1120724. Some of us were able to go to a site visit out to the golf course, look at the erosion controls that they were requesting to be removed. Excuse me. Personally, I all the areas that they were asking to remove had basically either renaturalized or renaturalized to the state that I didn't believe the erosion controls would still be necessary. The orders of conditions still stand for the general project. But I thought everything had basically gotten to a point where I thought it was safe to remove those. And I have no doubt that the golf course, it's in their best interest as well, just to maintain these areas for the general aesthetic that they're looking for. I saw no reason why not to remove them, but putting it out there to other members of the commission, anybody have different thoughts, feelings, or more information they're looking for? No. Okay. I noticed that Paul McManus is with us from the International. Paul, there was a question in the field about removing the wetland markers, the blue wetland flagging.
That's correct. The order requires that the flags be maintained for the duration of the order. But my assumption is that, as typical, your concern was, make sure that that's a real bright line that everybody sees. But now that the actual work is over, that we wanted to add that to our request. My goal is, as I said, out in the field, you have plastic ribbons and flags on wire stakes. And the longer they stay, in my experience, the more likely they are to end up kind of buried on the ground.
Yeah. I will say that when we were out on the site visit, Paul had brought this up, that they were thinking of doing this as well. Was able to discuss it with Rebecca in the field to see if she had any concerns with them coming down. She did not. She did. I think she pointed out to Paul at the time that, if for some reason the applicant was to come back to, apply for any new work or something new that would require flagging, they might need to reflag. But as far as the current order of conditions, she did not see the need for the blue flagging in order for us to monitor the growing periods or to close out the eventual order. Everything was pretty clear as to where it was. She was more than comfortable if they chose to remove them. Again, being out in the field, I was more than comfortable with it as well. I didn't see a reason that they needed to be there again, unless the applicants want to, apply for work again, future work. Things might need to be reflagged, but the ones that are existing now, I see no reason why they couldn't or shouldn't come out. So that's it. I guess I'm leaning towards basically approving their request to remove the erosion controls and the blue wetland flagging markers. Any comments or questions from members of the commission? Any different thoughts? Any questions or comments, as I've already said? Any information you would like to hear more about regarding this?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Please
It's
go
Kel-
ahead, Kelly.
It's Kelly Cardoza, on behalf of the International. I just have one more request to make. So
Okay.
Paul has been serving as the environmental monitor for the project, and you've heard from him, and he files his monthly reports. So the question that we have is whether you might consider also deciding that he doesn't have to do a weekly visit and a monthly report anymore, since the site is now fully stabilized. As we talked about in the field, there are ongoing obligations for monitoring of the plantings and the naturalized areas, and we fully understand that. But there's not much for him to really look at every week now, since the site stabilized, and it appears that at least you and some of your commission members might be in support of taking out the erosion control. So I thought I would just ask now, so that maybe you could have an opportunity to all of, discuss it at this time.
Sure. I'm curious. This is one where I'm curious to hear our conservation agent's thoughts. I do tend to agree with where the project stands now. It would seem like that we could get away with less than a weekly check-in. You say it was a weekly report, and then like a weekly check-in, monthly report, or is that?
That's right. I've been going out and doing weekly inspections and then a monthly report. I just sent one at 5 o'clock today for April,
Okay.
which you probably didn't see, but at this point, the monthly reports, as you might imagine, are fairly concise. But that's the order does require that. And initially our thought when we saw that was that perhaps we could get a partial certificate that would release us from that, but not, as Kelly noted, not release from the planting area monitoring. But our understanding is that you don't like to issue partials.
If possible, not. Yeah, in this case, but I can. As far as the reporting goes, and again, I'd hate to not talk to Rebecca first, but for tonight's purposes, and I'll put it out to other commission members, I could see if we were to say that we wouldn't be requiring the weekly reporting, that until the order is closed out, that we could keep with the monthly reporting, but not the weekly reporting. In other words, that once a month report still, but not necessarily a weekly report.
Excuse me, because I'm doing
Right.
weekly inspections and monthly reports.
Okay.
So,
Hey, Brian, can I ask a clarifying question?
Please, Sam.
Paul, in these reports, are you assessing the quality for the erosion control? Is that the only thing that is inside of these reports?
that's the primary purpose of it as it's written, but there is a statement that I'm instructed to address about project compliance in general. And there's been a couple times where we've had some issues with erosion control. We've had some minor impacts that we cleaned up. So I call those out as obvious deviations. But other than those, to the extent that I can see, without being a surveyor, I'm saying that the project is in compliance. And we are in the process of having the engineer, go through with the detailed assessment of compliance, and that's being put together now based upon aerial survey of the existing condition and then on the ground survey of particular items.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
All right. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
Just a quick question. Paul, when do you envision requesting a certificate of compliance?
Well, we have at least 2 years, 2 growing seasons worth of monitoring of the plantings. So it would be at the earliest, what's today, 20, so end of 25, we do I go out there and do a survey and a report. End of 26, we do a survey and a report. And then at that point, there's then an assessment about whether the goals of the planting have been met. So the earliest would be late 26, correct, Kelly?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so what's kind of just left from a compliance perspective is just monitoring the growing of the plants, correct?
We're pretty certain of that. As I said, the engineer is doing his evaluation, and I'll be very surprised if he comes up with something, but I think that what you just said is correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And the monthly report you had provided, was that just a compilation of your weekly check-ins?
No, it's
okay.
just a monthly report, because again,
Okay.
I'm not sending, I do weekly
Inspections.
NIPD SWIP inspection reports.
Yep.
That are really an internal document. You know, they tend to be kind of a punch list for not really violations, but hey guys, you know, keep an eye on this, do that, you know, you're opening up this area, you need a sediment trap over here, those sorts of things. And that's really the intent of those inspections, is to be an internal maintenance driver, as it were. So I have not been submitting any of that to the commission. Yours is, you know, the order actually says, you know, the report shall include, you know, A through G, you know, statements. So that's, if you look at it, it's the structure of my report came straight from the order.
And like, again, my only hesitation is this is one of the things I'd like to run by our agent and get her thoughts on it, what she's using that information for, if she's comfortable with it. I hate to make that assumption that she would be fine without it. And again, I'll put it out to other commission members. They're thinking, you know, rather than a weekly check-in, you know, maybe it's still a monthly report, but you don't need to necessarily submit a weekly check-in or a weekly, is it a weekly update, or is it basically you do a weekly inspection and that what goes into your monthly report? Or
well, I'm hoping, again, I'm not giving you a weekly inspection, a weekly report.
Right. You're doing it, right?
So we're doing that under the SWIP, and as you probably know, that's a self-reporting permit process, and we're very close to closing that out.
Yeah.
Because again, it's really the same threshold we've been talking about, which is unstable soils. So there's a little bit of unstable soil that's you know, it's probably 1,000 feet or more from the nearest wetland, and that's just about there. And so we intend very quickly to phase out that requirement. Obviously, I'm doing weekly inspections, so I'm kind of double dipping for the NIPDs as well as the order. But given that the NIPDs will soon go away, based on, frankly, on my assessment, you know, I believe that our obligation there will be done very soon. That then leaves the order of conditions, which, you know, unfortunately doesn't have a kind of a sunset clause in it. You know, it says during the reporting part is, the inspection part doesn't make any kind of timeline other than weekly. The reporting says during construction. So the reporting sort of gives, you know, a rationale for not doing it, but you know, it's not as explicit as perhaps I would like.
I see. And I guess, and again, I'm going to put it out to other commission members. I'll get other people's thoughts on this. I'd refrain from changing any of the reporting tonight. It's something I would happily contemplate, but it's something that we probably should have been requesting in advance. Had it been requested in advance, I would have run it by Rebecca, gotten her thoughts on it. I don't
Yep.
want to make any changes to it without talking to her. I'm guessing she would be fine with it, but that's not something I'm comfortable changing right now until I've had a chance to confer with her. But I want to put it out, other commission members feel differently, more comfortable, less comfortable.
Yeah, I think running it by the agent makes sense.
Okay. All right. And let me ask quickly, are there any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing or this particular vote? And I'm not seeing any. Okay. Commission members still comfortable with the removing of erosion controls and the removing of, I guess we'll call it wetland flagging, blue wetland flagging?
Yes.
All right. In that case, let me just, okay. In that case, I'm going to call for a roll call vote to approve the removal of remaining erosion controls and blue wetland flagging at the Pines Golf Course at the International DEP file number 112-0724. All those in favor, please say aye, starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thank you.
And you know, Kelly, if we want to change the reporting to, if there's if we can put it in an email, I'm happy to take it up again at our next meeting. And maybe, it's just 2 weeks from now that we're able to make that change as well.
Thank you very much.
No
That's
problem.
great. No, we understand. We should have,
There's no harm in asking. All right. You guys have a great night, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you again soon. And good work. I was just saying, being out on the course, it looks beautiful. It looks like you guys did a great job, and I'm hoping you have a really good season.
thank you.
Thank you so
all.
much.
All right. Take care. All right. All right. Next up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent filed for Lot 2, Harvard Road, DEP, file number 112-0755. Is the applicant or a rep for the applicant here this evening?
Yeah, good evening. This is Brandon Ducharme with David E. Ross.
Hey, Brandon, do you want to give us an update since the last time we met, or
Sure. Yeah.
alternate plans possibly?
Yeah. So really tonight I wanted to give an update. We've had a chance to do a few things since the last meeting. We went back out for a second site visit to look at the wetland line, kind of in that location that was in closest proximity to Harvard Road. And the other thing that I wanted to provide an update on is we've actually had a fair amount of success here in working with Kinder Morgan in regard to potentially having the driveway cross the gas pipeline within the easement. We prepared an alternative layout plan, which was presented to them, that showed the driveway coming off Harvard Road in the same location, but essentially taking kind of a 90-degree turn and running along parallel to the gas pipeline in the location where it was closest to the wetland area, where we were within the 40-foot no disturb. And basically I got some feedback that it's not likely for them to approve, or I guess what they really would not like to see is any driveway that runs parallel to the pipeline. So they've acknowledged that, there's situations where, it's necessary that they need to cross the pipeline. Typically what they want to see is a parallel crossing, obviously just to minimize the impact at the location of the pipeline. But, in working with us and trying to come up with a solution here, because as I presented, the issue was that, we were within the 40-foot setback in order to keep the driveway and grading outside of their current easement, which we were showing as a 40-foot wide easement. The suggestion that they had was twofold. Number one is typically the 40-foot wide easement is used during installation of a pipeline. In this case, where obviously it's been in the ground for a very long time. I think 1952 is when that went in. That they could scale back that easement to be a total width of 20 feet, which is 10 feet on either side of the actual gas pipeline, which also led them to wonder how, where horizontally that easement was, how it was created. So what they've suggested is they're sending one of their technicians out with a locator to flag the actual pipeline location in the field. And they've asked, then our survey crew will go out and locate those flags. And then we can reestablish that easement to be a total width of 20 feet. So all that to say, it gives us an additional 10 feet of room there to move that driveway. What they would obviously like to see is us not to be in the easement. And they're hoping that, with that additional 10 feet that we can pick up, that'll get us outside of the 40-foot setback. So at this point, and they said it would be a couple weeks, which we're up against that now. So I'm hoping by the end of this week they'll have that pipeline location located. We'll get out, we'll locate that, and then we would redesign the driveway to pull it further from the wetland area, which is obviously the desire of the commission. But prior to doing the design, they just kind of wanted to, float that out to the commission to see if this is kind of an acceptable alternative to the initial plan that we proposed.
It's hard. Like I guess I would have to see the new plan, to do that. I do appreciate that. And again, I'm amazed that you've gotten a real response from Kinder Morgan. They're actually working with them. You are looking at pulling it out as much as possible. I'm curious where that new line will be when we see it. Remembering back to our site walk, I can't speak for anybody else. I think I was comfortable where everything else was located on the site, knowing what the contours of the site that you had to work with were. I think it was comfortable with it. It was just that driveway location really where it really ties into the wetland there. So I'm curious to see where it ends up now, but moving it further away from the wetland is kind of what I was looking for. I think I was comfortable with the rest of the site plan, but that's me. But I'll put it out to other commission members. What Brandon's describing is that something that you'd be more comfortable with, or do you still see major issues, problems, other things you'd want to see addressed? And I know it's difficult without seeing a new plan yet, but I appreciate Brandon coming in, kind of give us an idea where it stands, and asking the commission their initial thoughts if he's going to come back with the new design, to kind of get some of those thoughts down now.
Yeah, we're not looking for a definitive answer necessarily,
right.
But I think if the goal here is to get it outside the 40-foot, and we're able to do that, is that are we moving in the right direction, I guess. So as you look at it in the field, I think as you stand there, the desire is to kind of have it come through what's the existing disturbed area. And you saw on the site walk that when we staked it out, the center line of the driveway is actually right along that disturbance. So I think, we're actually going to achieve what was desired anyway, because if we can now move that over by 10 feet, I think we're pretty much going to be running right through that area that's not grass, but, essentially disturbed area. And, if we've got to use, I guess the guidance is so we can keep the retaining wall, if really the goal is to keep it outside that 40-foot, but hopefully reduce some of that grading and reduce the size of that wall too would be helpful.
Okay. I think I'd be more comfortable with those plans. Again, it's hard to say without seeing them, but it seems like you're moving in the direction of what I was looking for, hoping to see for the plans for that site. But I want to put it out to other commission members. initial thoughts, comments, suggestions?
Just a quick question, Brendan. What's the width of the driveway again?
Driveway is 12 feet.
12 feet. Okay, thank you. Would you consider making it narrower, or is that the narrowest you can go?
I mean, probably the narrowest you can go is 10 feet. You know, the issue you have with a 10-foot driveway is, you know, typically you get rutting and different things because it's so narrow. All the travel back and forth is in the exact same location. But I mean, I guess if that going down to a 10-foot wide driveway in that area was the difference of being in or out of the 40-foot, you know, we could certainly look at that.
Thanks.
Other initial comments or questions? Not seeing any. Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? And again, not seeing any. All right. That said, Brandon, I'm assuming we're going to try to continue to our next meeting so we can try to get some new plans in.
Yeah,
I know you're waiting to hear back as well.
Yeah, we were going to continue anyway, but I just figured I'd at least, you know, provide an update at this point. And if there was something that was jumping out at someone that says, you know, make sure you address this or whatever, you know, that we can incorporate that before we go through the effort of the redesign. So at this point, I hope to have something back in front of you for your next meeting, if everything goes well, and then we can discuss the actual plan changes at that time.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I'm going to make a motion. And again, unless there's any other comments, questions, I'm going to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Lot 2 Harvard Road DEP file number 112-0755 until our next public meeting, Tuesday, May 20th at 7:20 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Sue.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Brendan. How we? Oh, we're doing all right on time. Next up this evening, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider a notice of intent filed for 285 Still River Road. Lauren, is the applicant or a rep for the applicant here this evening?
I think I saw John Kosker here earlier. Yeah, John, are you here? Hi, John.
Hi.
Hey, John, would you want to give us a quick walkthrough on what you are proposing here?
Yeah, so this is for 435 Main Street.
Yep.
Yeah,
285 Still River? No.
So,
I'm
yeah,
435 Main Street.
yeah, so I think if going in the order of the agenda, Brian, we're on Main Street.
I'm so sorry. You are correct. We are. So that said, do you want to give us an update on that, John?
Yeah, so I sent some stuff to Rebecca last night. You know, I know at the town meeting, everything, you know, I know she was there. I'm not sure if I didn't get a response on that, so I'm not sure if that got sent out to the rest of you.
Let's see if it is.
Oh, yes, we did receive it. Sorry if you
Okay.
didn't receive a response back on that. I can share my screen.
Yeah, no worries. So those just included some pictures. I moved the stakes to sort of the revised location that we discussed a bit during the site visit, moving the shed location back a bit into that. If you see the pictures, it's kind of that area that there was no vegetation growing already that Rebecca mentioned. And it's sort of against that fallen log there, if you remember from the site visit. So it's back about 10 feet from where it was, away from the the wetlands. And also I included updated plans showing the 8-foot version instead of the original 16-foot version. And then a map showing just, I guess, you know, the move away from the resource area.
Okay.
And is everyone able to see my screen here?
I am, yes.
Okay,
Thanks, Lauren.
you're welcome.
I mean, I guess I had a chance to go out on this site visit. I appreciate where the new, and thank you for leaving it on this image, Lauren. I appreciate that you were able to actually move it a little bit further from the wetland to kind of turn it and put it abutting your neighbor's yard over an area that was clearly existing yard or dirt to a certain extent. Appreciate that you actually shrunk down the size of the project. And looking at what the shed's going to be, it's a non-permanent structure as far as it's on the footings. And I know you have very limited room to work with on this particular lot. I was comfortable with it as proposed, as the newly proposed, where you had moved it to, had you had brought the size down and what the heft of the actual shed was going to be. I'm comfortable with it as currently proposed in the locations that are being shown at this evening's, the size and locations being shown at this evening's meeting. But I want to open it up to other commission members to get their initial thoughts, comments, questions. Seeing none. Is there any member of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? And again, seeing none. Can I ask quickly, Lauren,
Yes.
did I actually continue this hearing or did I mistakenly open the next one?
So you had, okay, so
Did I
you,
say 285?
I don't think you did, Brian. I think, and it's a continuation.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just want to make sure I properly opened it.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right.
no, if you want to just say it again. Just...
So the Bolton Conservation Commission will
Yeah.
now continue the public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to consider the notice of intent filed for 435 Main Street, DEP file number 112-0756. Okay. That's done. Based on our conversation, it doesn't look like anybody has any strong feelings, changes, comments. All right. Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Again, seeing none. In that case, I'm going to make a motion that we close the public hearing for 435 Main Street, DEP file number 112-0756. Do I hear a second for closing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Sue.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to make a motion that we issue an order of conditions for 435 Main Street as drafted and submitted at this evening's meeting with the visual locations approved by the commission at this particular meeting. Do I hear a second for issuing that order of conditions as drafted with the visual location submitted at this evening's meeting?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori?
You got that? Aye.
I did not.
Okay,
Okay.
aye.
That one I got. Sue?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Great, thanks.
No, thank you. Okay, now the one I apparently really wanted to get to. The Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss a notice of intent filed for 285 Still River Road. It looks like we have Jack Maloney from Dillis and Roy here this evening to possibly talk to us about this particular project.
Yes.
Could you walk us through what is being proposed?
Sure. Do I have screen sharing capabilities?
You sure do, Lauren. If you could please allow that.
All right. Can everybody see that?
I can, yes.
Okay. The red line is Route 110 heading north towards Harvard. This black line is Nashaway Road. Our site is just a little bit before that, on the hill on the right-hand side. This is our house right here. We have a well. This big blue circle is a well for our house. The other blue circle is the well for the abutter's house down below. In red, you see the existing septic tank, and the circle is the existing leaching pit that was probably early mid 70s, late 70s when it was built. The new system is in yellow. We're going to be taking out the old 1,000-gallon tank, and we're proposing a new 1,500-gallon 2-compartment tank out to a Presby system. This area will be excavated out, the old system removed, pump crushed, removed, and there's also a sandy loam layer that's down to about 3.5 to 4 feet below. That's going to be removed, and all that will be replaced with Title V sand, Presby sand. By the time we get done putting the system in, it's going to look exactly like it is today, a grassed-in area. No mound, no pumps or anything like that. These green blotches here are the trees that exist. We have some erosion control in orange right at the top of the bank before it goes downhill. And this gray area here is the existing paved driveway for 289 Still River Road. It comes off of Still River, drops down, and then it's fairly flat and wraps around this other side of the well, and the house actually sits back in this area here. We do have the stream. I don't believe it's a named stream, but it does appear that it's a perennial stream. So we do have the 100-foot inner riparian and the 200-foot outer riparian shown. And the edge of wetlands is basically right at the top of the bank of the stream prior to it going into the culvert and crossing under Still River Road to the Commonwealth of Mass land across the street. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. I know that Neshoba has reviewed the plan. I had a couple comments come back to me, nothing major. I'm not sure if it has officially gone to the Board of Health yet for review and approval. And the other thing we have or don't have is a DEP number as of 7 o'clock tonight. So,
okay. And I was going to say that was one of the few I was looking for, is to see if we had a DEP file number in their comments yet. And I was curious what system was in there before, which I think you answered. So the new footprint for the new system, it's basically in the it's a little bit of an expansion of the old footprint, right? I mean, it looked like it was,
well, yeah, the pit that's there now is probably including the stone at least 6 feet in diameter. It's probably a 4-foot diameter concrete pit that has perforations on the side with at least 2 to 3 feet of stone all the way around the outside, and probably, half a foot or so underneath it. Old technology. We used to use those back with old Title V when the state allowed us to, basically, out of sight, out of mind with everything. So the new system obviously is a larger footprint, but it's today's technology, a little bit smaller than a traditional stone and pipe trench or leach field system, but more efficient based on the filtration of the Presby filter fabric.
Okay. I can see what's going on here from the plans pretty well. I don't necessarily have any additional questions right now, but I do generally like to wait to get that DEP file number just to see if they have any comments on this and get their thoughts.
Yep.
So I don't think I have any additional questions right now around this. Actually, I should say the area that system's going in, is that existing yard right now? Is it
It is.
wilded
It's
or?
no, there is one ornamental fruit tree that's right up in this area that will have to come out. But
Yeah.
other than that, this is all yard area and it's mowed. Where these two larger trees are, there are a bunch of smaller oaks, maples and whatnot, and some other vegetation that's along this bank. Obviously, that's not getting touched. We're going to be right in this area. The material that I talked about coming out is going to be removed and taken off site because it's lack of a better term, it's more clay-like than sand-like. And it's just like a 1.5 foot thick layer that's in there that really serves no purpose. And we're going to be digging through it anyway to get the new system in. So that's all going to come out. That'll get loaded into a truck and hauled off site. So there'll be very little material that will be staying on site.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I think that's all the initial questions I have. Let me turn it over. Members of the commission have any comments or questions?
Just a quick question. Site visit, Brian, do you think that we should do a site visit for this one?
It makes it, again, I would lean towards at least continuing it because I would need to get the DEP file number and we'd like to see DEP comments too. That basically gives us at least 2 weeks before we can try to close it out. It couldn't hurt for us to try to schedule a site visit in that time as well. I'm trying to picture this property and where it is. And I think a lot of it I can see, but seeing where some of that other stream is too, it's probably not a bad idea to get out there on site and just to get a really good idea of what we are actually dealing with. So, and again, Jack, if you're all right with that, I might ask Rebecca to try to schedule that or Lauren to try to schedule a site visit.
Yeah, that's fine.
To see if some of us can get out there before the next meeting.
Yep.
All right. Any other additional comments or questions? I'm not seeing any right now. Any members of the public here to comment on this particular hearing? And again, it's not seeing any right now. In that case, I would like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 285 Still River Road until our next public meeting, Tuesday, May 20th at 7:30 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Sue.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
And
All right.
yeah,
Thank
Lauren,
you.
if
And
can-
just Lauren,
God
just let me
damn
know.
it. Oh,
That wasn't me. And just let me know when the site walk's scheduled.
Sure, I'll reach out to you tomorrow about that.
Thank you. Have a great night, guys.
Take
You
care,
too.
Jack. Excuse me. All right. How are we on time? Oh, perfect. So next up, the Bolton Conservation Commission will now open a public hearing under Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bolton Bylaw, Chapter 233, to discuss a notice of intent filed for 58 Main Street. Lauren, is the applicant or a rep for the applicant here this evening?
Brian, it's Greg Roy, Dilson Roy. I'm here to represent the applicant.
Craig, how are you this evening?
Very good.
Good.
Nice to see all of your faces again. It's been a little while. The applicant's also here. Wayne Greenwald is with JC Mechanical. He's also on the call.
Okay.
Would it be appropriate if I shared my screen?
It definitely would be, Lauren, if you could
Okay.
get Greg permission. All right, Greg.
All right, bear with me.
Yep.
Okay, how's that? Can you folks see the plan? I'll zoom in here in a minute, but
I was to say, I can see it, but zooming in would be.
yeah, I
fabulous.
will zoom in. So let's try to turn that off. All right. So this project, again, it's at 58 Main Street. It's the former Atlantic Microwave Building. So on your way to Stowe, on the if you're driving on 117 on your way to Stowe, it's the big building on the right-hand side before you get into Stowe, right after Bolton Woods Way, if you're familiar with that. And my client, JEC Mechanical, is the purchaser of the property. So not the current owner as of yet, but is in a purchase and sale arrangement with the purchaser to buy both the buildings, both the large and smaller building that sits in the front. And I'll just give you a quick permitting history of what he is looking to do with the property, and then I'll get into why we're here tonight and I'll try to be as brief as possible. JC Mechanical is a mechanical HVAC contractor, and they're going to be moving their operations to the larger building. They have a large installation wing. They do commercial HVAC systems. So they do installations on, sort of larger projects. They do some fabrication work. So the shop space that's in that building was very attractive to them. So they're going to be moving their operation into that location. And then they are going to have a tenant, which I believe is called Hush Pups, in the front of the site, which they'll have a lease arrangement with that tenant. Both of those uses required a special permit from the planning board, and the planning board has acted and issued both of those special permits independently. Wayne JC Mechanical filed for their use permit, which was light manufacturing, and the front use filed separately for theirs, and I believe that was last week or the week before they were issued that by the planning board as well. So that process is behind us. And actually, there's very little work proposed by way of new infrastructure for both of those projects. I am going to talk about one exception to that with the Hush Pups project in the front. But there's no proposed changes to paving or parking or stormwater, really anything except for, again, actually there's two exceptions I'm going to tell you about that's with this filing. But as we were into the planning board process, sometime 2 months ago-ish, or maybe 3 months ago now, during the winter, I think, the owner of the property was engaging in some cleanup work. I think it's not a stretch to, and I think that probably most of you are aware that the site has sat for quite a while, hasn't been utilized, and so there was quite a bit of cleanup that needed to be done. There was branches and things down in the pavement area, and I think in the process of getting the site ready for sale, the owner engaged with a site contractor to kind of do some site cleanup, and I think that there was a little bit of over aggression on some of that done in the buffer zone areas. And so your office issued a notice on that. And that's primarily why we are here this evening, to be responsive to that issue with some of the work that was done along the fringe, essentially along the fringes. And I'll go into this a little bit more detail in a minute, but essentially along the fringes of the existing parking areas to kind of clean brush, fallen trees, branches and things. And it just, there was certainly some grading that was done in the buffer zone without, prior to a permit. So that's sort of thing one. As we were looking to put that together, I was working with the applicants, or with JC Mechanical, to make sure there wasn't any other things they wanted to ask for. And there is two other things that they wanted to ask for, which is why we filed a notice of intent instead of an RDA or something else for the restoration work. The Hush Pups would like to install a fence enclosure, exterior fence enclosure for that use. And I'll go over this in more detail. And then the entrance to Main Street, Wayne JC Mechanical would like to widen that road slightly. So I'll go over these things in a little more detail at this point. So we delineated the wetlands. Our firm had actually delineated these wetlands a number of years ago, but we went out and reflagged because it had been a little while. So the areas that you see in green on the plan are the areas that are flagged that are classified as bordering vegetated wetlands on the site. The orange line that you see highlighted is the limit of the 100-foot buffer zone on the site. And if I can zoom out a little bit here, you can see in the back here, this is the larger building where JC Mechanical will be occupying, and then the front building is this smaller building here, which is where the Hush Pups use will be. All of this hatching that you see here, we did all this hatching along the edges of the pavement, all along here. That's where the work was done in the buffer zone. That's why I described it as sort of fringe on the edge of the parking lot. It was really mostly classified as sort of shoulder cleanup, where they, I think the excavator was sitting on the pavement and they were just kind of, there's a lot of debris and things down that they were just kind of cleaning up. You can see the brush piles still exist on the pavement in places. So, but some earth was definitely disturbed, and it's going to need to be restored. So one of the things that we've done is to highlight the various sections inside 25 feet to the wetland. We've identified the square footage. Between 25 and 100, we've identified that square footage. There's some areas outside of the buffer zone that have been disturbed that we've identified. And we've specified a restoration plan with a conservation type seed mix that we think will do well in this application. There were 2 trees, as far as we can tell. So the other thing to say is we had a survey crew go out and survey locate the limits of this disturbance. So the hatched areas that you're seeing on the plan are actually located by our survey crew. We try to get it as accurate as possible here to determine square footages. And we located a couple stumps. There were two stumps, and they're shown here in red. There's one right in this location, and there's one over here. As far as we can tell, those are the only trees that were taken down as part of this work. And I think that Wayne might be able to comment a little bit more on the health of these things, but I think that they were taken because they were diseased or, not in great shape. But be that as it may, we are proposing restoration plantings in this area here, new trees to mitigate the loss of those trees. And of course, grading and overseeding all of the areas, to make sure we mitigate and restore the earth, stabilize the earth that was disturbed along the edge of the parking lot. And then, the 2 sort of proposed things that the applicant is looking to do. As I said, that the applicant is looking to install an enclosure about 40 by 80 right here adjacent to the building. And that would be for the use of the dog. This is a dog daycare facility. So the desire is to get some outdoor space for the dogs that's defined and closed, that, from a safety for the dogs, obviously, and to keep them in, but also to define the limits of where that's going to be. There is no proposed tree removal in that area. All the trees, we survey located the trees. They're a little hard to see, but these gray, tree symbols here, we located all those trees to make sure that we're fitting this around where the, existing trees. We're not proposing any loss of canopy here, for that fence. So the proposal is an 8-foot high vinyl fence, solid fence. We would have a sort of the standard critter gap, if you will, on the bottom of that, so that, small animals could pass, in and out of that. But the 8-foot high is being proposed just to kind of make sure we don't have any issues with dogs jumping over the fence and things like that. So that's sort of proposal number 1. The second proposal is that the existing driveway coming down into from the site down to Main Street is about 16 feet in width. And, for commercial vehicles, that's a little bit lean. And where we're going to be restoring this area anyway, we saw an opportunity to widen that to about 22 feet. So we would like to push this pavement edge here out. This solid line here would represent a 22-foot width there. So it would be just adding about 500 square feet of pavement right along that edge. And then we would do all the restoration as I proposed earlier. So that's really the nuts and bolts of this. I guess two things. I'm not sure. I think some of you may have been to the site. I don't know if you have an interest in going back out or when the last time you went to the site. I kind of suspect you may want to. And then secondly, we don't have a DP number on this one, just like the last hearing. So we are still awaiting any comments from DP on that. So I know that you will not be in a position to close this evening. But I wanted to come and at least introduce the project. And I guess also say, I'll close with this, that the applicant is sort of standing in, my client, Wayne, who's the purchaser of the property, is sort of standing in for the owner on this, sort of took the torch because he's going to be the ultimate purchaser of the property anyway. And sort of, I would say, very quickly engage with my firm to take care of this and respond to your notification. The fact that it took us 2 to 3 months to get here was not because of a lack of effort on the owner's or applicant's part, but because his civil engineer was fairly busy, and we had a pretty tough winter from a surveying standpoint. So I apologize that it took us this long to get here, but here we are nonetheless. So
okay,
I'll stop and take any questions that you might have at this point.
All right. Thank you for the quick rundown. Yeah, as you stated, we'll probably wait for the DEP file number because I'm curious what they have to say about this. But it does give us a chance to get out for a site visit. I think I was out here like when I first joined the commission years ago. I don't remember it that well, but we do have so many new members that it's probably a good one to get out and take a look. So that's one of the first questions I had with the fencing for the doggy daycare. Bottom of that fence, is that getting trenched along the bottom, or is that just getting? I'm just not sure for dogs if they have to do like a trench into the ground. And
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I mean, I think the dogs out there are supervised, so it's not like I don't think they send them out in the yard. At least that's my understanding. So I do not believe. So we're showing on our detail a gap on the bottom of that fence just so we can make sure we have, passage of wildlife where we're proposing that in the buffer zone. So, we would be putting fence posts in the ground, but not burying the bottom of it.
Yeah, okay. And I guess it would kind of, I'm assuming they would need to do this regardless, but it would be nice to see something for an ongoing maintenance. I'm assuming they're going to be removing the waste daily or multiple times a week. It's going to be removed from that area and brought off site or to it. Yeah. Non-jurisdictional area of the site.
Yeah, actually, that was a question at the planning board too. I actually did not represent that the hush pups before the planning board. They did their own filing, but I was present because I had another meeting afterwards, and that was a question. And they will be they routinely pick up the waste, manage the waste, and dispose of that properly.
Okay.
Hi guys, excuse me, Brian. My name is Wayne Greenwood. Just like I said, I've been working closely with Greg over the last few months. Thank you for hearing us. If I could, one thing I would like to add on in relation to the fencing is we did ask that question because we were just wanted to make sure things were squared away, and that is the answer that was given to the planning board, was that there would be a dumpster there removed weekly, not in that particular area. Right. It is not a place where the dogs are left outside. It's merely to give them, I guess I'd say, yard time, for lack of a better way to put it. That area now, you'll be able to see at the site visit, has it's also currently paved. As you can see, there's a little bit of an access road. As well as in between the trees, kind of right where the word proposed is, there's a little belly of area that had been cleared out in some previous modification, whether it be permanent or not, I'm not quite sure. And it has some crushed stone and gravel. So the intention there is just, there's a door right by this little access way right to the right of the numbers 268 that goes into the space where the intention here is to give the dog some outside time, some yard space, and that's what the intention was. So to my knowledge, there's been no discussion about removal of any other, like I said, other than debris, removal of any other plantings, removal of any grass, just simply to put a fence up to encase them and give them some air.
Okay. Right. And I guess the one thing I would say too is if there is going to be a dumpster to remove the stuff, just to make to if possible list the location of where the dumpster is going to be. We just want to make sure the dumpster is not being stored in the resource area, that it's being kept out.
Absolutely.
Yep.
We had discussions that it may be right to the right. There's a little bit of a loading dock area right there. That we had discussions that would be a good location for a small nondescript dumpster.
Right in here?
Yes.
Right in that one, yeah.
And that's on a paved area in front of the loading dock, and we could put it someplace there that wouldn't impede any of the grass areas or anything like that.
Yeah, it's outside the resource area. Okay, I think that's what I had for initial questions. I may have more once we get on our side. I'm trying to picture it, and I think that will help me a lot too. And again, hearing from DEP will be great. So I don't think I have any other initial questions right now, but let me open it up to commission members. Any initial comments, questions, or thoughts from members of the commission regarding this particular hearing?
I have to recuse myself. We are in a butter.
I did see you on the list, Lori.
Thank you for letting us know, Lori.
No worries.
And we were hoping to see you on the site visit. God. All right. Any
Never get
additional? I was gonna say you could just look over. Comments, questions, thoughts?
I do have a quick question, Brian. Are
Please.
there any storm drains that are on the lot? And where are the drainage pipes going?
Great question. I can go over a little of that. I don't believe there are any in this lower area.
I don't believe so.
I think it just sheet flows off the pavement. It's been doing that for, well, I don't know when they built this facility, long time ago, probably before my time. There is a drainage basin up here, an existing, sort of conventional stormwater detention basin. And there's and that captures the pavement, a lot of the pavement from the upper portion of this, a lot of the runoff from the upper portion of the site, the paving on the upper portion of the site. And there's an outlet control structure and it discharges this way here. So that's really it's a pretty low tech stormwater system that's been there for quite some time. And again, we're not proposing any changes to that or any additional significant areas of pavement. We are proposing that small strip at the front, but nothing other than that.
Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming that the waste is going to have a cover.
The dumpster, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And then the last question that I think I have is any of the fenced in area, is that going to have any sort of anything on top of it beyond grass? I have 2 dogs and I know that they rip up grass. So I'm just curious on if there's going to be wood chips that are placed down there that are there, or if it's going to remain as grass, which could have a lot of erosion.
We'll probably have to get back to you on that. That's a great question. I don't know of any of that the applicant's looking to modify the treatment of this. I think they just want to keep the existing grade, surface as it is, which really isn't grass. Some of it might be partial. But we'll get back to you on that. That's a great question. We'll make sure we ask the owner of the Hush Pups business.
Great.
What I could offer for that is the area that Greg has highlighted in yellow. That is currently a paved walking path that connects one building to the other and goes up to the building. Scott Moschella, who's the owner of the Posh Pup, has indicated to me that he is looking at some ways of some turf type material that adds some cleanliness and also can be laid down over the area and be washed and sanitized and that type of thing. But I can get clarification on that. But that I don't know that that's cast in stone, but currently today, I think what we would want to do is we would look to improve that area a bit to give the dogs a little bit more of a better outside environment.
Yeah, I'd love to get some clarification on exactly what kind of products could be used in that area. And I do understand the purpose of the sanitation. Again, I've got 2 dogs. They're kind of gross. And I do very much understand that there are certain diseases and disease vectors that would need to be mitigated, as well as the environmental impacts. So any sort of information that you could get from them would be really appreciated. Thank you, sir.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
Additional comments, questions from members of the commission? Not seeing any at this time. Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? And again, not seeing any at this time. All right, so that said, I know we're waiting for the DEP file number. I know we had some initial questions tonight, so with your permission, we'll go ahead and continue this until our next meeting. And then in the interim, we'll work with Lauren and Rebecca to try to set a date to get out there for a site visit before our next hearing.
Sounds great.
Okay.
One
Go
thing,
ahead,
Brian,
please.
if I could just note, I went to the town last week and I spoke with Rebecca briefly. She did tell me that areas outside that aren't impacted here, that are on the pavement, we could do some cleanup just to make the site a little bit more user-friendly for people as we're starting to do some construction. So I just wanted to, in full disclosure, just so if anybody saw any activity on site, it would be well outside of this impacted area, just to do some general site cleanup.
Okay. And I was going to say, has she been out to the site? She was out to the site once already, or?
In the winter time, again,
Yeah.
it was snow covered and all. She's been out to the site. I don't know that she's been out there since then, but we have spoken 2 or 3 times since then. So
Okay.
she told me just to stay away from the impact areas, obviously stay away from the wetland areas, but paved areas on the upper side of the building that have some debris or rocks or sticks and things, we'd just be doing some general cleanup in those areas.
Okay. No, thank you for letting us know. And if she was comfortable with it, I'm sure it's fine. And again, it's not really jurisdictional to us. So yeah, you should be good.
Yeah, just for a general awareness, that's all.
No, appreciate it. If we see people out there working, yeah. So what's going on? Yeah.
Right. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
No problem. All right. So that said, I'd like to make a motion that we continue the public hearing for 58 Main Street until our next public meeting, Tuesday, May 20th at 7:40 p.m. Do I hear a second for continuing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim,
Aye.
Lori,
Abstain.
yep, Sue,
Aye.
Sam,
Aye.
and Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Thanks very much. We appreciate it.
right.
See you in a few weeks.
Thank you. We'll see you soon.
Yep.
Okay. I know we already discussed Long Hill Road. Discussion for a certificate of compliance for 401 Main Street. Excuse me. Looking at Rebecca's site visit report, and I know she made some comments on the agenda. Looked like when she went out there, everything had basically met the thresholds we were looking for to issue a certificate of compliance. She was not concerned with us issuing one, but her comments did mention, she did stress to mention to the applicants to note that the planting should continue to be maintained and monitored for success over time while the area is still being restored and naturalized. So there is still stuff coming in. It's still in the process of renaturalizing, being restored, but she saw enough of a take with enough of a success rate, I should say, with the plantings that were required, that she was comfortable with issuing a certificate of compliance. And again, just allowing reminding the applicant of that, that they really need to continue to maintain and monitor for that success rate over time while that area is continuing to renaturalize. But other than that, she had no concerns with issuing a certificate of compliance. Reading her notes, I'm comfortable with issuing it as well, but curious to know what other members of the commission think, or if they have any questions or comments regarding the request for a COC for 401 Main Street? Seeing none. Are there any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? Seeing none. I'd like to then make a motion that we issue a certificate of compliance for 401 Main Street, DEP file number 112-0649. Do I hear a second for issuing?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori?
Aye.
Sue?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Wow.
All right. Next up, we had the discussion for the proposed replacement of the existing crossing within the exact same footprint in our rattlesnake conservation area. Lauren, was a member of the trail committee coming to discuss this tonight?
I'm not sure if we have anyone. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to represent this discussion? Not seeing anything. And actually, Brian, I think we skipped something on the agenda for the discussion about the Harvard Conservation Trust.
We did.
We did. My gosh.
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes. Oh, true. Hi.
Hi.
Yes.
So I believe Chris DeBurs is on as well. I'm on a plane right now, about to get off.
I'm
not
here.
The best. Okay, so do you want to go through the material we have? Lauren, can you pull it up?
Drew, they're talking about rattlesnake.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Perfectly fine, Drew. We have you on basically discussion of Wilder Farms as well coming shortly after. And now that we have you, I don't know if you're transferring to a car. We do actually have something that we can discuss. Request from the Harvard Conservation Trust. I don't know if giving you a few more minutes is a good or a bad thing right now.
Yeah, I probably need a few more minutes.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and we can talk about Harvard, and if I know you were here to discuss Wilder, we can probably talk about rattlesnake too, depending. So we'll kind of table this for now and continue the discussion that had started to regarding a request from the Harvard Conservation Trust to include Bolton Trails on their trail challenge, and including some related installments with that. Just trying to look for my notes. So, in talking with Rebecca, it sounded like most people were fairly comfortable with this. These were not permanent markers they were looking to put up. They are something that we could request them taking down when they were done. There was questions about some of the private access routes to some of these trails that might be connected on this challenge, making sure that they were basically identified on all challenge related publications or mapping outreach information that's put out there, that these are marked as private access and as not part of that challenge, which I think we can absolutely put that into our findings on this. But that said, I think the general project in general, I thought was a great use of our conservation lands. It's wonderful partnering with other local communities to combine our conservation lands, especially where they connect, and to make use of like the greater area. So it's something I was generally in favor of. I'd love to hear commission members' thoughts or comments if people had strong feelings one way or another regarding the request from the Harvard Conservation Trust.
Brian, I will say that we did receive some images from the Harvard Conservation Trust, just kind of outlining the areas that they were looking to place the installation. So I can just pull that up on my screen.
That would be fantastic, Lauren. Thank you.
Yep. It's a little small. I'll zoom in and scroll through each one. But if anyone has any questions or wants me to stop, just let me know. I think this was the area that we were discussing last time. Does that look right? Sam, I know you had mentioned a couple areas of concern.
Yeah, it's that left-hand spur. So the blue one is technically a private, or like it's a public has the ability to do it. It's a permitted public path. And then that left-hand spur, Lauren, that's not a path at all. And that was my main, I guess, comment about all of this, is that left-hand spur shouldn't be on the maps at all that we're giving to Harvard or to anybody that we have going in the woods, because that is not a permitted trail for the town of Bolton.
Are you talking about this area right here or the blue?
So the small little blue section, nope, down.
That's the
Yeah,
lower
that
road
short
one.
blue section is permitted, and that left-hand spur right there, that's
Okay.
not a trail.
Interesting.
Okay.
And so my big, I guess, problem, because I think this is a great thing, right? I, however, am not comfortable putting this forward to members of the town of Harvard when that is not a public trail in the town of Bolton.
Gotcha. And was that is this map is this showing us the full trail they're proposing, or is this showing what the trails are out there right now? In other words, is that giant circle just the area they're proposing to use?
The giant circle is what they're proposing to, I believe, put their I'm going to call it a sticker, but that's
Their
the
challenge. Yeah.
installation. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Which I have no problem with. It's the fact that we're going to be handing out these maps to people, and the fact that this is still, it's just not a public location.
And I don't know if you caught Drew had just made a comment that these were not trail committee maps. So he's not sure exactly where they pulled this map in from.
Not sure if it says. Let me zoom out a little bit
so I
here.
was wondering.
I think these were actually just screenshots that they had included in an email. So I'm not sure where they're getting these from.
Because I want to support this. I think it's a good thing. I just want the maps to be appropriate and representative of the trails that are actually public trails in Bolton.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. And I'm trying to think of the best way for us to approach that. And not coming up with anything offhand.
I mean, I
Trying to
think the simplest solution is to fix the maps, but until the maps are fixed, I know personally I'm not comfortable voting on something like this, because I do know that they're wrong.
Okay. Okay, that's a good way. And I'm not sure where these maps come from either. So that might be nice to hear from them where they're pulling from the maps from, because if it's something we want to clean up on a larger scale, we could do that too, if it's showing up on some sort of public database or whatnot. But I think Sam makes a really good point. Trying to see when they were hoping to start installing, right? So
Said May 2025 to
fall.
fall 2025.
Yeah, so we could still, I guess I would say, Lauren, if we could go back to them with that I think, and again, please correct me if I'm wrong, that everyone was relatively comfortable with the project. It's something we want to allow and definitely can make this happen. But there were some questions about the maps and the maps showing trails that may not exist. And if we could just get clearer maps from them, and also let us know where these maps came from, so we can make sure this information isn't out there.
Hey, Brian, this is
Go ahead.
Chris Demers.
Please, Chris.
To Drew's point, why can't they source the trail maps that we publish online?
They probably can, but I think I don't know if we publish all the Harvard trail maps, because I think this is primarily Harvard trails, but it's, the Harvard trails that cut into Bolton. They want to include the part that cuts into Bolton on.
There are, when they're close, I've seen some of the maps. It does show them going into Harvard trails.
Okay.
Maybe not extensively, but it might be enough for this. And honestly, I think it's up to them to figure out how to mesh those two together. They can't make up the trails, we have it documented.
No,
Chris, I
and
hear
you know
you.
what?
Sorry, Brian. I hear you,
Right.
but the maps in Bolton are wrong. The spur that's on the left-hand side of that small blue spur that comes off of Laurel Road is not a public accessible location, and that is on a town map, and that is not a public right-of-way.
Oh,
It is
then we need to
not
fix that. Oh,
correct.
okay. Good
That's
point.
my point.
Okay.
The blue spur is public, correct? Public is allowed on
The
that?
public is allowed on the short blue one.
Yep.
It is a permitted public, but the left-hand side is not.
And that is not on our publicly available maps on the Bolton Trails website.
Correct. It says that it is available to the public, and I know for certain that that is not a public trail.
Okay. And I was going to say, as I'm looking at the map in front of me, is it the land? Oh, I'm trying to think which one is public land. Is this all just right of way? Is like the green grayish publicly owned land and the orange tannish private land with easements?
Yes.
Trying to figure out how to read this.
But the orange land is not, it doesn't all have easements.
Gotcha. So that's private land.
It's just private land. I don't know what the gray is. It looks like the green is the public, land. The orange, I'm sure some of it has easements, but I'm 100% certain that some of it does not.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we should probably ask them for updated maps, or at least to mark. I'm trying to look at what they're requesting to see if there's a way that we could basically put that in there to say that yes, you're authorized to do this. However, you need to make sure that the trails marked that you're putting out there don't. Well, we had it for Laurel Road that we had the condition that Laurel Road or any other private access point shall be identified as no public access for the purposes of the challenge on all related mapping and outreach information. So in theory, if they provided that map, they could still mark that as no public access or private access, and it's not someplace they would put up one of their signs.
I don't care so much if the sign goes on that little blue spur, because that is a public right of way. I would suggest speaking to the landowner about
I
that.
think they had some concerns about, sending a lot of people through there. We had said that we could say, not to use the Laurel Road or any other private access points. I think people are supposed to be coming at it through the Harvard side to begin with, possibly. So I was hoping that wouldn't be a problem, and we all know there's a number of private access points to some of these conservation areas, and basically putting it out that they need to mark these on all of their materials saying these are private, no public access. I'm wondering if a condition like that would cover us for like the map that we were looking at, where is it that either trail doesn't exist, or if it is a private trail, that we require them to mark it as such on anything they're putting out.
I mean, my fear with that, Brian, is they're already mismarked.
Right, right. And well, I was gonna say, what, like, is there a trail there now? It's just a private trail?
So there is a quad path
Okay.
up there. So it appears that there is a trail. But it is to bring firewood from the top lot down to the other lots.
Okay.
And so it, like, when I say that people should not be walking back there, it's because that is an active woodlot where trees could be falling. And so it's a big safety concern, right?
Right.
So that's part of the reason that I'm bringing this up is I know it's a private lot. I know that it is mismarked on the maps. We are going to be providing this information to the town of Harvard, and they provided it back to us, stating that this is a trail that has been delineated, and on both the town of Bolton's maps and the town of Harvard that was proposed to us, both of those maps are incorrect. So I think that personally, the way that I see this moving forward is if Rebecca were to work with whomever GIS wizard is going to take off that segment and then repropose that part to Harvard and say, these are the trails that we, are okay with.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, but there is where it's marked, it might not be an official trail, but there is an actual cart path there now.
Yes.
And there's no town easement on that cart path?
Not at all.
Okay. It is weird that it's marked there. I guess well, to a certain extent, I used to do a lot of backcountry hiking. It makes sense that those cart paths are marked. Usually they will be marked as private because it does help orient you when you are actually out in the woods. And if you see a large path that you're going to start going down, it's nice to see it actually on the map saying, no, this is a private cart path. And you don't assume that it's just a trail because it looks like the trail.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen them marked on maps in the past, but usually they're marked as private or no access because it is a trail you will encounter when you're out there.
Yep. And that would make sense, especially since they have delineated other parts of the trails in different colors. But given that this appears the same color scheme as a public right-of-way path, and it's very much not.
Yeah,
that's my concern.
Okay, no, which I get. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, are we covered if we put in like Laura Road or any other private access point shall be identified as no public access for the purposes of this challenge on all related mapping and outreach information? In other words, by telling them they need to mark anything that's, private access, no public access on anything they put out, any maps they put out, are we covered? Because we're telling them, look, that trail should be shown as a private trail and not public access.
I hear what you're saying, but if they're going to pull all their information from the town of Bolton's website, again, it appears that it's a public path.
I don't know that they pulled this from Bolton's website, because I guess the trail committee was saying this isn't the trail committee maps.
That's exactly correct.
So I was looking this up a little bit, and they pulled this off of the Harvard Conservation Trust maps. So the map we're looking at is Harvard's, but Bolton's map doesn't show that the private path is anything.
Gotcha.
It has been a battle for many, many years to get that pulled off of the maps in Bolton.
Gotcha. All right. I guess I'm getting the question I guess I'm putting forward is, how do you want to move forward? I think we're covered by saying, look, you got to point out that any of these private access roads are private access and no public access. And again, I'd love to have them taken off maps, but I guess my point earlier was, as a backcountry hiker, like I want to see that the trail is, if there's a trail there, I want to see that it's there. And it can be marked as private and do not use. But when I'm out in the backcountry, if I see a trail going to my left and a trail going to my right, and one's marked and one's not, what's going on here? I want to see, if it's an existing trail, I want to see it marked on the map. It might be private and I can't use it, but it should still be there. Which I mean, that could just be me though. I don't know if I just have strong feelings one way or the other. But I guess for the purposes of what they're asking for, I see us as being covered if we use that line of Lower Road or any other private access point shall be identified as no public access for the purposes of this challenge on all related mapping and outreach information. But again, that's just me. I would say that would cover that issue. If you don't think it does, I get it. I'm just asking what are our next steps? How do you propose that we resolve this? Can we move it forward? Do we just tell Harvard no? I'm open to anything.
It seems like what they're asking for is that, at least the way I read this, is that the people that are taking the challenge are going to stay within that oval area, right? Is that a fair statement, right? So if we said something along the lines of, you shall stay with, make sure that people in that challenge stay within those trails within that oval area, then it seems like we should be covered, right?
So within marked areas.
Because that they're not.
I think I'd be okay if it was identified as the delineated area, because that path is not identified within the delineated area of where that would be. So, Jim, I do think that would help.
Okay.
All right. In the delineated area. Okay.
And Brian, just as I don't want to digress.
No, go ahead.
I think there's a couple other trails that they're going to use as well, right? So can we take a look to make sure that there's no other issues with these other trails, if we're familiar with them? Right, because there's 3, right, Lauren?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep, there's 3.
All right, so there's the Bowers. I'm picturing around 4. I can't speak to the Harvard side.
Yeah, that looks like it's all within Bowers.
Parking
right?
private.
Yeah, I think it was only the zinc one that crossed into private property.
Okay.
I think the other one stayed within the public.
Okay.
All right, and then Vaughn Hill one is. Okay. So how would people like to handle it?
These words around is
all right. So if I were to go to say, we authorize the Harvard Conservation Trust to include Bolton trails that continue from Harvard through Vaughn Hills, Bowers, and Zinc Northwoods conservation areas within their trail challenge, and authorize the Harvard Conservation Trust to place related minimal installment of an image anchored to a tree via colored paracord rope for the duration of the trail challenge proposed to take place between May 2025 and fall of 2025, that all related installment materials shall be removed by December 1st of 2025 from the town of Bolton properties. And that the access to the marked challenge area on Bolton property should remain within the delineated or marked areas as presented at this evening's meeting, and that Laura Road or any other private access point shall be identified as no public access for the purposes of this challenge on all related mapping and outreach information. Does that sound right? Is there more things we'd like to add? Is this something we want to get more information from?
I think that sounds okay. I think the only thing that I would add is like any trails that are identified as, with no trespassing signs shall not be, I don't know, permitted or
Included.
something. Yeah,
Yeah.
included is a good frame. Yeah.
All right, just write it down. So with what I read through before, if I would put something like, first, that the challenge materials, but the challenge materials and marking should only take place within the delineated or marked areas as presented at this evening's meeting, and that Laurel Road or any other private access point shall be identified as no public access for the purposes of this challenge and all related mapping and outreach items, and that any other trails that are ID'd or marked as no trespassing should also not be included in the Harvard Conservation Trust's Trail Challenge. I guess that's what it's called. Does that seem to cover everything? Or is there a better way to word that?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay.
In my
All right.
opinion.
Other thoughts, comments, questions, additions? Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular hearing? None. All right. I'm going to try to get this out. I'm going to call for a roll call vote to, let me see if I can get this right. I'm going to call for a roll call vote to authorize the Harvard Conservation Trust to include the Bolton trails that continue from Harvard, specifically Vaughan Hill Conservation Area, Bauer Conservation Area, and St. Northwoods Conservation Area within their trail challenge, and authorize the Harvard Conservation Trust to place a related minimal installment of an image anchored to a tree via colored paracord rope for the duration of this trail challenge proposed to take place between May of 2025 and fall of 2025, on that all related installment material shall be removed by December 1st, 2025 from the town of Bolton properties, and that Laurel Road or any other specific access points shall be identified as Laurel Road or any other private access point shall be identified as no public access for the purposes of this challenge on all related mapping and outreach information, and that any trails ID'd or posted as no trespassing should also not be included on the Harvard Conservation Trust's Trail Challenge. All those in favor, please say aye. And if anybody, so say, I hope I got that right. Please just wave your hand if I'm totally off on that. All those in favor, please say aye. Starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori.
You got that?
I did not. I missed you again. I'm sorry,
Okay,
Lori.
I'm sorry. I must have released too fast. Aye.
Just too quick on the draw. Sue.
Aye.
Sam.
Abstain.
Okay. And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Next up this evening. This was the Wilder Farm. All right. So this was, so we had a discussion scheduled regarding the Rattlesnake Conservation Area and the proposed replacement of an existing crossing within the exact same footprint using the same materials. And there was a question of, do we think this would require a formal filing, an NOI filed for it, or do we think this would fall, seeing how it is replacing using the same materials that currently exist in the exact same footprint? if we thought this could be approved under just a regular maintenance item for the trail itself. Curious if conservation members have a strong thoughts or feelings regarding, and this is just the Rattlesnake proposed replacement of the existing crossing. Okay. I feel strong that it can be considered routine maintenance. Again, it's staying in the exact same footprint. It's replacing a wooden bridge with a wooden bridge, and it's going to be most likely done by our Trails Committee, which we know uses best practices, and they're overseen by our conservation agent in doing so. That said, I do not think it would require a standalone filing, and I think we could authorize the work to be done with a simple roll call vote. But I just want to put it out to commission members, different thoughts, feelings, any questions or comments?
Nope, agreed.
Okay. All right, not seeing any. Others, any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular discussion? Not seeing any. In that case, I'm going to call for a roll call vote to allow for the replacement of the existing crossing at Rattlesnake Conservation Area as proposed at this evening's meeting. All those in favor, please say aye. Starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori. Sorry, Lori, didn't get you if you had tried. Or did we? I hope we didn't lose Lori. I know. All right. I will come back to Lori in a minute. Sue?
Aye.
Sam?
Aye.
Lauren, I'm an aye as well. Lori, do we have you? Lauren? I was going to
Yes.
say, I don't know if you know the rules on this, if we can put her down as an abstain, but I hate to do that if it's drop off. It's probably not a good
Either way, we still have majority of the quorum who
I'm sorry, I
had
had to
voted.
wait for a second.
You're fine.
My dog was outside, I forgot about her.
Well, I'm glad you found the right priority there. Take care of the poor dog. Is she's back inside now? Everything's good.
Yeah, we're good, I'm sorry.
No, you're totally fine. So we're doing a roll call vote whether to authorize the work in Rattlesnake Conservation Area, basically saying that it can be done under regular maintenance and doesn't require such standalone filing. Are you and I in agreement with that?
I am.
Okay.
Again, I apologize.
No, you're perfectly fine. Okay. That should take care of the discussion on Rattlesnake. But now I know there is a little bit of a discussion for Wilder Farm Conservation Area maintenance, a proposed bridge replacement, but I think it's going to be an upgraded bridge to a certain extent. Drew, I don't know if you're in a good place to kind of walk us through this or talk us through this right now.
Yeah, I can totally do that. Can Lauren share the provided periods?
Thank you, Lauren.
Yep.
The quick summary, this is right kind of across from the high school in the Wilder Farm Conservation Area, probably maybe less than 100 or less than 50 yards in from the road. And a tree fell on the existing bridge that had some rope hand railings and, crushed one of the cross supports. It's still passable because there's, 3 total supports and only one, right, got crushed, but, it should be repaired. All the some of the hand railings got broken. It's a fairly substantial length. So we thought it best, like if we are going to put some effort into repairing this or replacing it, we might as well do do an upgrade, and the Bolton Conservation Trust is generous enough to help fund this. There might be some grants that are trying to be obtained to help offset it, but the plan is to do exactly what is done in the Vaughan Hills Conservation Area, what's known as VH7, which is right near the Mullen parking lot. Exact same 20-foot span, exact same hand railing designs, pretty much cut and copy this exact design that's on the right there, and put it where this bridge is to the left. And there's no, it's actually like, I feel like a little better because it spans the whole thing. It doesn't go down into the stream at all like the current one. And the actual total length of the FRP materials that we're proposing is less, but maybe with the crushed gravel transitions, which are hard to really know exactly how long and high they are until final assembly, it could be the exact same footprint of what we got now. Because it's different materials, the thought is that this is a substantial enough change, as documented in the Wetlands Protection Act, that we are, based on conversations with Rebecca, the best approach here is move forward with the NOI. So I just wanted to introduce the project before going through the lengthy process of, working with Lauren and Rebecca to go through this NOI to address any questions or concerns. So we make sure we document everything in the NOI. That we're
Hey,
going to do
travelers,
appropriately.
this is Rich Davey, CEO of the Massachusetts.
Sorry there.
No, you're fine. You're fine. No, I appreciate you saying that. I did see Rebecca's notes. I think she would feel more comfortable with an NOI again, because we are changing the materials that we're using. And I think she'd point with some of the FRP bridges, we may need to change their approach a little bit to make sure it's a little bit of a ramp and that it's got the access for everyone. And I think she would feel more comfortable going with the NOI process, which I personally am fine authorizing to do it. I mean, I can see from the pictures, it's a matter of time. This bridge does need to be replaced. I know the FRP tend to be a longer, stronger alternative in the long run to when we do replace things like this. So I am comfortable with the idea of the project and asking Rebecca to submit an NOI for the purposes of getting this work done. But I'll put it out to other commission members. Initial thoughts, comments, questions. Is this something you'd rather just kind of, in theory, we could try to approve it now without an NOI. Again, I think Rebecca's more comfortable with the NOI. I kind of lean to go that way, but I'm happy to hear other options or questions, comments. Not seeing any. Any members of the public here tonight to comment on this particular discussion? And again, not seeing any. All right. So that said, Drew, I think, and Lauren, I know you're taking notes. I think this is something that we probably will ask Rebecca to file an NOI for the purposes of doing this work, and start moving that process along. Appreciate everything that you have laid out here today, because hopefully it'll make our process easier when we see that final NOI as to what's being replaced and why. Do commission members have any other comments or questions right now? Everybody comfortable with the NOI approach for this? Okay, so noted. Drew, get home from the airport, and
thank you very
we'll
much.
be talking more about this in the future, I am sure.
All right, see ya.
All right, take care. All right.
Now, Brian,
Go ahead.
do we need to take a vote for the commission to authorize Rebecca to submit an NOI? I don't see that in our notes here, but I think in the past we've done that.
I was to say, I don't see it in the notes, but I think you're 100% correct. Trying to just make sure, because I think it would just be a lot easier if we could authorize that tonight so she can start on the process. You see, I'd like to, well, just put this out quick. I'm not making a motion, but in theory, it would be a motion to authorize the town's conservation agent to draft and submit a notice of intent for bridge repair work necessary at the Wilder Farm Conservation Area. That would seem to cover it, correct?
I would think so.
Okay.
Unless it, you know what, I'm not sure actually. I think in the past Drew has submitted NOIs
Oh, the trail
as the
as
applicant. So maybe he was planning on doing that. I'm not sure in this situation.
Okay.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think Rebecca probably would have added into the notes if she was planning on submitting it.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we're okay.
Perfect. And
Just
I was
wanted to
gonna say,
mention it.
no, it's a really good quiz. As soon as you said it, I was like, I think you're right. And you may still be, but yeah, if you talk to her tomorrow, and yeah, we may still have to authorize in the future, but it's probably best to hold off until we know for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
So next up, discussion about a possible land donation of 1.5 acres off of Harvard Road. Lauren, do you have an image or anything of?
Let me take a look.
I'm just taking a look. Zaka Land. Okay, I'm seeing it. The Zaka donation is one in our shared file.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Whirlpools. Okay. Just reading through Rebecca's notes. There is, I think it's a question of, is this something we want to recommend to the select board to accept this possible land donation of 1.5 acres off Harvard Road? I know generally speaking, we'll do a search to see if it has clear title before recommending that. I'm looking through my notes quick and I tail off here. I am sorry. It has been a very long couple of days. Is there something I am missing? Lauren, like I said, normally I know we'd be waiting to do a title search to find out if there was anything existing, any liens, anything on it before recommending that the town would accept it.
I think there's some taxes as well, right? So clear title and taxes.
Right. And so
yes.
That said, was it is it something we should possibly avoid voting on tonight until we kind of get final confirmation on those two things? Or are we somewhat looking to see, is this something that we're maybe not voting on it tonight, but is it something that we may be interested in acquiring this land?
Right after that, there's a small field. I'm trying to remember a long time ago if do we own that small field? Is this abutting that piece of property?
It's a good question, Lori. I'm not picturing it.
It's just a tiny little field across from the old farmhouse, and for some reason,
that corner there. Yep.
I'm trying to remember if it went in with one of the projects up there, and it's going back quite a few years now, and I don't know if it has restriction on it or we actually own it or what, but it's just a tiny, and it kind of falls right after that piece of property.
Oh, it's interesting. I'm curious to take a look now. I'm a little bit more curious about this one now too, because I know like there was a piece of property directly across the road that we kind of had a right of first refusal on that we opted not to take. It looks like there's a house there now on the other side of Harvard Road. I think that parcel kind of came to us as a right of first refusal type thing, and it just didn't meet enough of the characteristics that we were looking for. But I think you are correct. There is like a small parcel that kind of abuts that maybe.
Yeah, it looks like someone else owns it. Doesn't look like we own it. It's
Okay.
17.1, Lauren.
What is it?
It's 17.1 if you go up.
Yeah, it's just right up, and it's just a tiny little field. I don't know if it has
Farmland
a
restriction.
or
Okay.
something on it. Yeah, I thought it had something. I couldn't remember how it fell into play with things.
I don't think we own it. Yeah, it's got a restriction.
But it does have
Doesn't-
a restriction on it.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not owned by the town, though.
right.
Okay.
Interesting. So for the purposes of this one, I'd almost, me personally, want to get a little more information. I want to drive by there and kind of take a look. And again, it's been a long couple of days. Maybe to have more discussions with Rebecca about what some of the value of it may be and impact. Again, getting some of these little small isolated parcels, they can be more trouble than they're worth. Any open space is definitely worth it. But if it's just a really small parcel not connected to anything that we need to oversee and maintain, it can sometimes be more trouble than it's worth. I kind of want to get a chance to at least drive by there, go out there and see what the connectivity is, see what's kind of on. It looks like the wetlands definitely go through it. So I don't think it's a buildable piece necessarily, but it could give us greater protections if we do, if the town does own the piece. I just think for me personally, I kind of wanted to find out some more information on it. But not sure if there's any initial thoughts, comments, questions. Anybody, feel strongly we should move forward with it now, feel strongly that we shouldn't.
Brian, is this where one of the fire ponds is? Is that ringing a bell for anybody else?
That totally rings a bell for me. Let's see.
It was listed.
Road. It's the parcel houses. It does house a dry hydrant and fire pond. Which that pond does serve as an active vernal pool, so it definitely does have some merit to us and to the town that it houses the fire pond. That's a really good point. I'm just somewhat curious. I have some more questions about this. I would like to hold off taking an action right now. But again, if others want to move forward, or if there's other questions or comments people have that we can put forward to Rebecca, I'd just like to do a little more research on this one myself personally. Okay.
I'm good with that. I think it might be worthwhile to see what any of the O&M would be potentially, like from the fire chief or someone who knows more about fire ponds than I do.
Yeah, same here. Yep. And what our responsibilities would be if we held a parcel, and I'm sure some of our other parcels have fire ponds on it, but any rights, responsibilities we would have, and all of that. Okay.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So it looks like people are comfortable holding off on making any strong decisions with this one tonight, and waiting to get a little bit more information. Okay. In which case, I would say if you have any specific questions, or if there's anything you'd like to know, to either email Lauren or Rebecca, and I'll hopefully be talking to one of the two of them this week with any questions that I may have. So if we were to table that discussion for now, I think, does that get us to the end of our agenda for this evening?
I think we just have some enforcement order updates, or
I was just saying, I think there are no updates on our enforcement orders. Though it sounded like 146 Hudson Road, I think, had been in touch with Rebecca, and they are currently working towards compliance or getting ready to bring that forward. The Forest Legacy program is still slowly moving forward. Don't have any strong updates on that. I know the federal funding for that, I think, is still frozen. Again, we'll give the reminder that the Learn to Fish Clinic at Bowers Spring is co-hosted by Mass Wildlife, is going to be on July 3rd of 2025 this year. And that we do have the volunteer land steward and a conservation commission seat available for anyone who is interested. And I think that is all I had this evening. Lauren, is there anything I am missing?
Nope, I don't have anything else.
Commission members, any new business, comments, questions, thoughts, fun poems that you would like to add in this evening? Seeing none. Go through. I will hereby make a motion to that we adjourn the Tuesday, May 6, 2025 meeting of the Bolton Conservation Commission. Do I hear a second for adjourning?
Second.
All those in favor, starting with Jim.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Sue.
Aye.
Sam.
Aye.
And Lauren, I'm an aye as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all. Everybody, please remember to vote next Monday night. Yeah, our budgets and everything got approved at annual town meeting last night, but nothing is final until the town votes on it. So appreciate if everybody remembers to vote next week, please. That said, I will see you all eventually, if not in 2 weeks.